Michelle Poremski.
And I'm Pastor Ron Ween.
And you're listening to 180 Your Life, the Grief Empowerment podcast to help you craft a life you love after loss. So today is our second podcast in our series called
The Casserole Killer.
Dun, dun, dun. All right. Now, the reason that we've deemed this the casserole killer is because so often when someone is going through loss, and it is important to come with food. Yes, we're not telling you not to come with food, but we're saying that there's more to think about. And how can we empower those who are supporting those who are going through loss and those who are going through loss to move through this journey with hope, health, and healing in an efficient way. So today we're going to talk about exercise and getting the memorial service ready. I know, really fun stuff to talk about. Actually, exercise is going to help a lot. So, Pastor Ron, I know that just this past weekend, you completed your second half marathon.
That's right.
At 64 years of age.
Yes, that's right.
And your first half marathon was only 3 months ago.
Right.
So you have really incorporated the 180 Your Life process in terms of getting strong and healthy. Talk to us about ways that we can start to exercise even in the ground zero of loss, because I know that when I lost my husband, the last thing I was thinking of is doing an exercise.
Well, me too. It was just the gravitational pull for people in loss is to stop moving.
Absolutely.
And if instead of bringing a casserole, what if you'd showed up at the door and said, "Let's take a walk"? That would be so much more helpful than what we usually do, which is bring the casserole. Just take a walk so that they can start moving again. The body is just sitting there, and so you can help them defy gravity and get out of the couch and start moving again. And that's the key thing, because the chemistry is all messed up when you're sitting, when you're eating, when you're stressed, when you're grieving. The chemistry is all messed up. So this is a way to begin to break down some of the stress hormones that are being released, some of the stressors that are just unbelievable in the chemistry. So helping somebody take their first steps, that's a godsend. People coming over and not just sitting there, but actually saying, let's go for a walk. Let's get out of the house. Let's do something. Even if it's just for a walk, that is so helpful.
What does it do in the body?
What it does in the body is reduce the adrenaline, the cortisol, the stress hormones are being released all the time, because in grief, that's an extremely stressful situation. It's like one of the top three when you lose a spouse especially, and the body gears up for flight, fight, or freeze, which is a survivalist skill. And that leaves out a lot of ability to think. You start to react to everything instead of thinking through it. And when you're planning the memorial service, when you're greeting people who want to express their condolences to you, you kind of want to be in at least be able to think your way through what's going on.
I think that what can happen, a lot of these suggestions that we have, the top 10 suggestions that we're going through for the first week, it's great to have a person, maybe a family member or your best friend, who is, I call her like the, I know I'm going to date myself, but on the Love Boat, there was Julie, who was the organizer for the ship, and she would coordinate everything. Well, you need one of those. You need somebody who's just going to take this list and say, how about you walk with so-and-so this week, and then next week, let's have somebody come over to walk, and then let's coordinate these meals. You have to have people who want to help coordinate this process, and so that's why we're here to give those those tips that will help empower this process.
Yeah, the coordinator could coordinate walks. That would be great, because the person who's sitting there,
the person who's going through loss, right?
That's the person who's grieving and just sitting there, cannot think for themselves in terms of their own health. What they're doing is doing the work that they have. They can't do that.
It's overwhelming.
Yes, it's overwhelming.
You go into that survival mode. My friend Laura Apon says It's like the cushion of grief. The first couple days, you just can't quite believe it's happened.
Right.
So you can still do some things, and then it's actually after the memorial service when you're so focused during the memorial service on how many things need to get done that it really doesn't hit you the massive change until after the memorial service. And so after the memorial service, it's like the crickets. You've got like all of these casseroles in the fridge, and you're wondering, what do you do with your life now? And that's when the grief really hits. So it's important to coordinate people to come in and take a walk, maybe help with the laundry, just to keep things going. And we're going to be talking about that in other podcasts coming
Right.
up.
Or even mow the grass.
Mow the grass,
Yes.
absolutely. But the exercise is something you wouldn't think of necessarily in a grief situation,
Exactly.
but it's so important. So consider, organizing exercise, because so often, the U.S. Office of Vital Statistics says that a person who's lost a spouse is at a 60% higher risk of suicide in the first 6 months. God forbid. I want to say to that person, if you're here, God has a plan for you. If you're on this planet, God has a plan for you. So hold on. And to those who are supporting them, coming in to exercise, to meet for lunch, to help with basic household tasks like laundry, coordinating the meals. This is very important because sometimes when you're in that first shock of grief, just a lot of stuff shuts down.
And you think you're alone.
You think you're alone, and you want it,
Yes.
and you need community at that time. So next we're going to talk about getting the memorial service ready. This isn't something that you think about until you're in the situation. So here's some ideas for those who are going through loss or those who are supporting them. Here's what they will have to think about. And we're going to list them off, and then we'll kind of unpack each one. Coordinating with the pastor, rabbi, priest, or faith leader for the memorial service. Choosing your favorite musical pieces. Designating persons for eulogy speeches. Making a photo montage. Designating someone, and I did not think of this, to videotape the memorial service. I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is one of the worst moments of my life, but amazing things are said about your loved one in those eulogy speeches at the memorial service, and you may want to have those preserved, especially if you have small children who
As
are
a
going
legacy.
through loss, right? So that they know what other people said about their loved one. Posting an obituary in the newspaper and coordinating with the funeral home. So these are some topics. This by no means is everything, but these are some hot lit things that need to be addressed. So let's talk about number one, coordinating with your pastor, rabbi, priest, or faith leader. Pastor Ron, I suspect you've done a funeral or
Yes.
two in your time.
Oh my.
So why don't you talk to that?
It is so important to talk to the pastor first, because that's your source of spiritual strength. This is, and it's just, you've got so many God questions that are going on, wondering what in the world just happened to me? What's going on with me and my faith? Where is God now? Mm-hmm. And those are questions that need to be raised up, lifted up, because they're real, they're coming out of a painful situation, and pastors understand that. Pastors understand that, and they can guide you in terms of how you can choose the right passage, the appropriate passage, maybe your favorite one, maybe the loved one's favorite passage, or the right hymn, or if there's going to be music, the right hymn, the right soloists, the right people to participate, especially when you want certain people to make eulogy. And in a large funeral, you especially want to designate people to make a eulogy, or else it could be there for 3 or 4 hours if everybody wanted to speak.
Oh my.
Yes. So you want to limit that, because
It's like a marathon memorial service.
Yes, you don't want to have a lot of people coming forward
and giving the eulogy.
Yes.
You want to select a few
That's right.
people, and then maybe afterwards at a gathering at a house after the memorial service, then you could have a time where people are sharing stories as well.
Exactly. So
Okay, well, how about choosing? So you talked about choosing your favorite musical pieces.
yes,
You know, if you're in long-term care for someone, this actually could be a conversation that you could have with that person, possibly.
if you have the time, yes,
Yes, if you're and to talk about what are your favorite Bible verses, what are your favorite musical pieces, and this can be something that you could potentially do together so that you feel like that person had a say in their memorial service, if that's
exactly.
possible. Do people do that?
Yes, yeah. In fact, one of the people I just talked to recently, a recent widow, the husband.
Oh,
her
Susie Fowler,
Susie Fowler.
who we were taping with the other day.
Yes, yes. She was wonderful. He wonderfully surprised that he had arranged everything.
Her husband.
Yeah, that her husband had arranged everything, including the funeral service, the arrangements with the funeral home. Everything was done, and she just had to come and be grateful to this person that she loved, that he would save her from doing all that.
That's amazing. That's
Yes.
amazing. So I know those are incredibly difficult conversations, but it is, I think, if you lean into the loss, lean into the grief, you might, especially if you're in long-term care, might be able to make more connections and help one another go through the different processes of grief. So let's talk about So we've talked about eulogy speeches, the photo montage.
Oh my.
You know, creating, I think, when I talk about creating a financial citadel, and you want to create that citadel, not when a citadel was a strong tower or like a fortress. You don't build a fortress when the enemy is cresting on the mountainside. You're like, Bob, pass me the brick, Bob. Pass it faster,
Yes.
build.
Bad timing.
Bad timing. So you don't want to. You want to take time and build those things in peacetime. You build your fortress of protection in peacetime. So having those conversations of maybe picking out favorite pictures. You don't have to say it's for a memorial service, but picking out favorite pictures together, if you're doing long-term care, that can be really helpful in creating a photo montage. Or if you are helping someone create a photo montage for the memorial service, helping them go through their favorite photos could be a real, just being a sounding board to them, that can be really helpful. Videotaping the memorial service. I have to say, I was hired once to videotape a young widower's memorial service for his wife, and I was absolutely amazed at the beautiful things that were said. It was a stunning service. This man just loved his wife, and it made me sad that I didn't videotape ours for my late husband. So just think about designating someone to videotape the memorial service, because the eulogies are amazing, and it is something that the family may want to look at later on.
Very uplifting. Yes.
Right, so we just have a few moments left. So posting an obituary in the newspaper, you can help a friend with that, and coordinating with the funeral home. Coordinating in advance with the funeral home, in advance if you're doing long-term care, whether or not you're going to bury or cremate will actually save you a lot of money. We can
Yes.
talk about that in another podcast. So anyway, it's time for us to go. We're so thankful that you joined us. If you'd like to learn more, you can check out the book, 180 Your Life, From Tragedy to Triumph, A Woman's Grief Guide. It's got a lot of helpful tips, whether you're a man or a woman, or you're supporting someone through loss. Be sure to check out our website at 180yourlife.com. If you'd like to support what we're doing, you can sign up for our grief classes. You can find those. It's only $8 a month at 180yourlife.com, or make a tax-deductible donation at 180yourgrief.org. God bless, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
Take care.